What's up guys, Goji Boy here, and today I am bringing you a review on the SH Monsterarts Mecha Godzilla, Garuda, and Fire Rodan set. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start with Mecha Godzilla himself and just get right to the articulation. So in regards to that, he is pretty limited. Now keep in mind, this is, as far as I'm aware, the third time this figure has been released with minor changes to certain points in the articulation and sculpt. More specifically, I'm going to say the head. I'm not sure about the feet. I do not own either of the previous two releases, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But regardless, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and just start with the head. Now, mind you, as mentioned, I believe this whole portion, the head itself and whatnot, is going to be a new sculpt in comparison to the previous two. So this does kind of come apart, or it's meant to, and therefore, at least with mine, the pieces do tend to pop off a bit. So jaw wise, can open, it can close, easy, nice. You can look side to side, about there, about there. Can't go all the way around, but still good range of motion. In regards to looking up, this whole, the neck actually does come out quite a bit in order for him to achieve his flight pose look, so to speak. So he does have good range of motion in regards to that, which is nice. Arms, that's it. That's as far as they will go. They get obstructed right about here in the shoulder pads, unfortunately. They can, luckily enough, go all the way around. Arms themselves at the elbow can bend straight right there, and then nice little L shape. Wrist joints, swivel, perfect, all the way around. Ab area barely moves. You can get him standing nice and straight and hunched over to a degree, but I do feel that he is a bit more limited in comparison to your standard Godzilla figure, which of course, when combined with at least the leg movements, you can get him hunched up over a bit more, which is nice, of course. Now, regards to the legs, they can, let me see if I can at least get them to go through. Yeah, they do full swivels all the way around. Knees go back that far, straight. He's got some ankle rocker, barely, and he does have toe movement. And in regards to the feet, this is die cast. I do not know whether or not the original releases were die cast as well, which is pretty nice. It does make, of course, the legs a little wobbly, at least on mine, because of the weight of the die cast itself, but it's still pretty cool. Reminds me of the Dragon Zord Legacy Collection, had some die cast part, and I believe the feet were also in that same fashion. Moving on to the tail. Tail barely moves. I mean, it does kind of go in and out, and that's also in part for the flight pose, where it's supposed to meant to be a little bit straighter, but that's it. Hardly any movement. It's not segmented like your standard Godzilla figure, but this is Mecha Godzilla, so yeah, no big deal. But I want to say that's pretty much it when it comes to the articulation on this guy. He's pretty straightforward, and like I said, he is an older mold, which is understandable. You know, they're just reissuing him so that anyone that missed out, such as myself, can get him and add him to their collection, which is exactly what I needed. Another Heisei Mecha Godzilla for my collection, so I could complete the set. But look-wise, he's great. He's got a nice paint coat to him, not super reflective, and it's not dull in any way, so he really captures the light. So I am pleased with him, and I'm glad I didn't have to pay a premium for trying to snag one of the older versions. So I am happy that they did this set with Rodan, even though I already had Rodan. But yeah, nice figure overall. So I'm going to go ahead and showcase the accessories that he comes with, not including the Garuda at this point in time. So 1 second. He comes with extra pair of hands, just straight, also meant for the flight pose itself. He comes with an interchangeable visor, if you will. This is meant to be the busted eye when Rodan attacks him. And I'm going to showcase, since I have the original Fire Rodan, the alternate head sculpt that figure comes with. So this is for the original Mecha Godzilla. They sculpted an entirely separate headpiece that had the busted eye right here that you would just pop off and then swap the entire head. With this guy, you're meant to at least like take off this portion of his head and then just swap out the visors. So I thought that was pretty neat. But as mentioned, when trying to move his head around, sometimes this does tend to come off, and that is a bit bothersome, but not that big of a deal. I do think it's pretty cool that they went ahead and just made it into this small item instead of a whole different head sculpt. I think that's pretty neat. So next off, he comes with a separate belly area. You can pop this whole section off to attach this, and an alternate back piece so that you can go ahead and attach the Garuda to make him Super Mecha Godzilla. So with that being said, might as well just bring in the Garuda right now, and then I'll go ahead and try and do a swap of his ab area and go from there. So the Garuda has, I'm gonna say, 2 main color differences. I mean, it's just like nice silver, just like how Mecha Godzilla is, with some white on here to separate it. But as far as I remember, the original versions of this, the paint on this one does seem nicer. I felt like that the grays on the other one were just really dark grays that didn't look complimentary of Mechagodzilla himself, whereas this does, and it works really nicely with the whites that it has. It's not too harsh of a color separation, so I really enjoy it. In regards to this, little ship on here does push forward, so it kind of just goes up and down, real basic. And the cannons themselves, of course, come down that way. When it's resting on his back, they can blast away. Now, in order to attach this to him, it does come with some option parts. So basically, you'll take this little area off. The back side comes off in 3 pieces. So you have 1 piece, 2, and 3. So these 3 pieces come off, and in turn, Mechagodzilla's back, with some finessing, will come off as well. There we go. Leaving that gappage, which I would recommend to do that at the same time so that you can swap his belly area. There we go. So that comes off. This should pop off as well. I would recommend to be very careful. It is hard plastic and you wouldn't want to snap it. There we go. Off it goes. New belly goes in. Perfect. Reattach upper body, and in turn attach the new back piece for the Garuda. And that sits with those pegs. All right. With that being said, you will then get the new pieces, interchangeable parts that are meant for the Garuda that leave this space open so that you can go ahead and attach it to his back. These slide in, or peg in, excuse me, right there, leaving this whole area exposed for this. And just align the peg holes. And boom. And now we technically have Super Mecha Godzilla. I was making him a little bit top heavy, as you can see, but overall, it's really cool. I mean, this is something that I've been eyeballing for a while. Like I said, I am glad I didn't have to pay extra to snag one of the older versions. So I am very, very happy with this. All right. So when it comes to this portion of the review, we're going to go ahead and swap out and do a quick size comparison with some Godzillas, and we'll move on. So kicking things off with the size comparison, we have the Godzilla birth figure. So you can see they stack up just perfectly. This guy is also part of the Heisei display that I have part of my collection, of which Mechagodzilla will now be a part of. So we have him. And next off, we have the Godzilla 2000 special color version. I have him a bit hunched over just because I like the way he looks in that pose, real menacing and whatnot. Also stack up nicely. And lastly, when it comes to this size comparison, we have the Godzilla 2002 Monsterarts figure, which is the first Monsterarts figure, period, that I ever purchased and told myself would be the only one that I was going to buy, and here we are. So, also stack up quite nicely. And next, we will be moving on to the Fire Rodan part of the review. So here we have the Fire Rodan included with this set. This is the second time the figure has been released. I do have the original, so I'll be comparing that one to this one momentarily. But let's get started. So I'm going to take him off the flight stand that he does come with. Get right into it. This guy is pretty bare bones as well. So in regards to wings, they do have little segments that allow for some nice flap action going on, but I will recommend to be careful with this. This guy's very small and fragile. So he's going to have some joints right here attaching to his body itself, allowing for it to move up and down. The wings can fold as mentioned, so they're going to be attached right here, here, and here, individual sections. He does have his little claws, which are on a little up and down hinge. Not much going on there. His tail, surprisingly, is small but segmented. Does move around, up, down, side to side, swivel, swivel. Can get into some nice little motion going there. And his head, same situation. Has some segmenting right here attached to the body, another piece there, and then the head itself. So it can move around, up, down, just barely, but enough for what he is. And his mouth does open and close. Feet and legs, very minimal articulation as well. Swivel right there at the thigh, connection right here at the body. Knees do have some bending going on, not a lot. And then his little ankle movements. Toes don't move, but I wouldn't want them to. They're too small. Paint job on this guy is really nice, but I do prefer the paint on the original. So this guy is definitely a lot darker in comparison to the original. He has some nice red going on right here that transitions into this like off-white, but I honestly think that the paint job with these like veins, if you will, just looks a little off-putting. And they're going to be on the inside of the wings as well. He has metallics on the head, yellows right here, and it kind of looks like the reds on the head as well. So I'm going to bring the old one in, and I'm not sure if the lighting is going to capture it very well, and I'm going to have to be real careful with the old one because he is much flimsier. So here's the older one, definitely more vibrant reds and yellows throughout the entire body. So in comparison to the one here on my left, which is a new one, the body is much darker, barely any hits of red, where this one is just very bright red throughout the entire figure. And the transitions of yellow in the wings just look better on the old one, in my opinion. And I don't know if you'll be able to make it out, but the old one also has like the vein work, and you could barely see it coming through in the hits of the yellow that the figure has, but it just looks a bit more natural in comparison to the new one, where it just, as mentioned, to me it just looks kind of off-putting, but this one just looks more natural, as if it's the veins showing through the membranes of his wings. But then again, if you never picked up the original Rodan, this one does come with the set, so that's pretty nice. I happened to snag this guy a couple months ago at a decent price, I think 120 on eBay, and that's because I didn't know that there was going to be a re-release with Mecha Godzilla to begin with. Now, with that being said, I am happy that I have both of them. I mean, as stated, this one is quite old, so I am worried that at some point he might just fall off his stand and break in some way. But the cool thing is, if you happen to have the old one, the effect parts work just fine, obviously. So the old one comes with this pink beam, which you can just use for the new figure. Awesome. And he also came with a blast effect for Godzilla himself. So yeah, regardless, if you have the old one, you're gonna have a good time with the new one as well. Just mix and match. So let us move on with this review. Final thoughts when it comes to this set: definitely pick it up. Although the figures themselves are quite limited as a package altogether, I would say it's definitely worth it, especially if you don't have either one and don't want to pay extra off eBay. I got mine from Toys in a Box for about $220 before shipping and tax. So definitely check them out. I believe it's still available through Big Bad Toy Store as well. So don't sleep on it. I will bring to your attention as well the fact that I forgot to mention that the set also includes these two cables on They're bendy wires that can be attached to Mechagodzilla to reenact, if you will, him ensnaring Godzilla, just like in the movie. But besides that, again, I recommend it. So, have any questions? Leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next review. I'm Goji Boy. Peace.